Hey everyone, this is Julia. Thank you so much for joining me on my craft room adventures. Today, I'm finally in the mood for spring, so I have a scene card to share with you using Hello Bluebird stamps and dies. I stamped out my images from the McGregor's Garden stamp set onto Neenah Solar White cardstock, and I'm just coloring them in using Copic markers. For my bunnies, I wanted them all to be pretty much the same color, so I'm just using some warm grays. I'm using W00, W1, W3, and W5. For most of them, I'm using the W5 very, very sparingly because I wanted them to be a bit lighter. But for this first one, I'm adding a bit more of it. Now I'm going in with a W3, blending it out with W1, and then with the W00. Again on the third bunny, W3, then with a W2. And then blending out with W00. Just adding in a second layer to give it a bit more depth. Now I'm using the same combo for my third bunny. Just making sure the center part of his body is the lightest, and I also added some lines where his chin would be, so that there's a separation from the head and the body. I'm not that great at it, but at least you can tell there's a little something there. Now I'm just going in with the W5, then the W3, W1, and W00. Now I'm just adding a little bit of R20 to the insides of the ears and the cheeks, and I'm blending that out with the W00. For the birds, I'm using Y21, Y11, and Y00. Just adding the Y21 first as my shadow, and blending that out with the Y11 and a little bit of the Y00 for highlight. For the flower pot, I'm using R00, R00, R02, and R05, which is like a nice orangey type of red. Making sure the center of the flower pot is the lightest. YG 61, 63, and 67 for my greens. Going on with the YG 67, then adding the 63, and then blending it out with the 61. Those flowers are from the Fairy Garden stamp set by Hello Bluebird, by the way. Then I'm using R00, R00, and R02 for my flowers. And for the watering can, I'm using B00, B00, and B02. Just going in with the second layer of the BO2. And some more of the B00 and the B000 in the center. I die cut a grassy hill panel using the grassy knoll die, and I'm just ink blending that with Twisted Citron and Mowed Lawn. Just blending the two colors back and forth until I'm happy with it. And then I realized it was still a bit too light for what I wanted, so I'm also adding some pine needles on there. Using the Pond Builder die, I also die cut some treetops using the die that is meant to cut some shrubbery. And I'm ink blending that with Twisted Citron, Mowed Lawn, and pine needles, just like I did before. Now I'm also going to add some splatters of the same colors. So I'm just adding some water and splattering that on with a paintbrush. I also die cut the treehouse scene die, and I'm using antique linen and walnut stain. And to deepen it up, I'm also using a bit of black soot. I don't really have a deeper shade or a different shade of brown, so I'm just making do with what I have. And I'm using the black soot to create a darker shade of brown, basically. I'm just blending the two colors back and forth and trying to intensify it to create a darker shade of brown and some dimension in the tree so that it's just not one flat color. Just adding more of the walnut stain. I'm gonna keep adding and adding. But I realized that it wasn't gonna go much darker. So I'm just adding in the black soot. I also die cut the scene die also die cuts the rest of the pieces for the treehouse, which is like a decoration for the windows and the doors, and the door. And I wanted those to be even darker than the tree, so I'm just using lots of the walnut stain and quite a bit of the black soot as well. There are also some paving stones there, but I didn't end up using those. Now it was time to assemble my treehouse, just using the quickie glue pen to add the decorations. Just adding the little windowsill and the frame for the top window, then the one for the bottom. And now all that's left was the little doorknob and the shutters. As you can see, the treehouse is see-through, so I wanted to create like there's a little light behind it. So I just ink blended a bit of scattered straw onto Bristol smooth cardstock. I'm using a pencil to trace it, and now I'm just cutting that quite a bit smaller than what I traced. There was still some bits showing, so I cut off a bit more. And then I'm just using some liquid glue to add it behind my treehouse. I made sure to not put any glue behind the door so that it would still be able to open. I didn't end up making use of that, but if I wanted, I could. Just like I did for my pastel color birthday card, I wanted a bit of a bigger scene. So again, I'm making an A2 extended card, which measures 4 1/4 by 8 1/2, and the card base is 8 1/2 by 8 1/2. I just cut the panel from Bristol smooth cardstock, and I'm ink blending tumbled glass and salty ocean distress oxide on it. And I'm just, as usual, blending the colors back and forth until I'm happy with it. And to add some more interest to my background panel, I'm also using Ink on 3's liquid pixie dust. There I'm just using the dropper and I'm adding some water to it. And then I'm just adding lots and lots of splatters with a paintbrush to my background. The shine of the liquid pixie dust really is so pretty. It adds such a beautiful sparkle to the scene. Now it's time to stamp my sentiment. I want to heat emboss Spring is Here from the Script Spring stamp set. And I'm just figuring out the placement of my sentiment. I'm going to heat emboss it, so I use some powder tool to make sure nothing sticks. And then I'm just using Versamark ink to stamp it. I'm using some Ranger embossing powder in rose gold because I thought it would look nice next to the brown tree. Off to the side, my heat gun was already heating up, and now I'm just melting the embossing powder until it's smooth and shiny. Now I'm just adding the grassy hill panel with foam tape, cutting off the overhang with my Tim Holtz trimmer. And I'm also adding the tree house. I added bits of foam tape to the top 2/3 of the tree house because those will be on the blue background, and the part that will be on the grassy border I will just add with liquid glue. And now I'm just trying to figure out where and how I want to place my treetops. Now I'm just placing down my tree house, and also adding the treetop supported by some foam squares. I cut off the excess, and now I'm just using the little grass stamp from the Field Mice stamp set and stamping these little grassy bits with Mowed Lawn Distress Oxiding, just to give the hill a bit more interest. I wanted one bunny to hold the watering can, so I just cut a little slit in his arm and also a hole in the watering can and glued those together so that it looks like he's actually holding it. Just using some liquid glue to hold it in place with a quickie glue pen. Unfortunately, my camera cut out while I was placing the images. I just added foam tape to the back of them and placed them on my scene. The top was still looking a bit empty, so I also added 2 more butterflies. And now I'm just adding lots and lots of shimmer pen for even more sparkle on my spring scene. I had so much fun making this. I hope you enjoyed watching my video. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful day. Bye!